This is Amy Jenner. Thanks for your company. With me now from Melbourne, Liberal MP Josh Frydenberg, and in the Sky News Centre, Labor frontbencher Ed Husic. Ed Husic, I just spoke to Graham Perrott. He's likened the campaign to a 100-metre sprint, and Rudd compared to Usain Bolt. Who would have thought?
Does that work? I do the Usain Bolt pose. What do you reckon? I just want to put on the screen, you've got that ugly Broncos thing. Can I just get that somewhere to block you out?
Oh, wow. Mate, you can't do that. I'm still here. Josh Frydenberg, the serious point here is, though, that we're halfway through the campaign, a long way to go. Coalition of the favourites, but, you know, there's still, well, 2.5 weeks to go.
Well, if Kevin Rudd thinks he's the Usain Bolt of politics, then Tony Abbott's the Rob de Castella. He's a marathon runner, and he's been dragging this government down for the last 3 years, and we've still got a long way to go, but he's going to end up with the gold medal. And tonight is going to be Kevin Rudd's moment of truth, because, Kieran, he cheated in the first debate when he used notes against the rules. Then he's been dragging Labor Party members into photo opportunities at local bowls clubs because he doesn't have the support of the locals there. And now he's been dragged kicking and screaming into having this People's Forum, which was Tony Abbott's idea from the start of the campaign. And we saw Kevin Rudd's performance in the first debate. He didn't have a narrative. He couldn't explain his government's failures. And Tony Abbott has an alternative way forward for the country. And that's going to be a stronger economy and more prosperous future.
Ed Husic, the Prime Minister did put in a lacklustre effort in the first debate. The notes aside, it was just an average performance. Tonight is a key moment. 100 undecided voters in the room here at the Broncos, alongside Tony Abbott. He's really got to make the most of this.
Well, it was a nice deflection by Josh there, you know, talking about the moment of truth. I think the moment of truth well and truly is for Tony Abbott to actually step forward and tell people who's going to be the loser out of his $70 billion of cuts. You can't get any answers whatsoever other than them sticky taping three-word slogans together, which doesn't make for a platform for government. It just makes for bunting for election day, and it's not treating the constituency, it's not treating the electorate with respect that you would be able to provide that detail. So, you know, Tony Abbott's been running away from debates other than the ones that he might appear from time to time, including tonight's, but he's really got to say which families lose out. Which schools lose out because he's not funding education properly? Who loses out when they rip down the NBN? Who loses out in terms of healthcare and other investments? Well, just let me make this final point. We're at, what, week 3, and we still don't have a healthcare policy from the other side of politics on one of the biggest parts of the federal budget.
Well, I'm going to be talking to Peter Dutton about that a bit later.
Good luck with that.
I spoke to him a bit earlier, in fact. We're going to play it after 9 o'clock. But about Rudd's performance, as I say, he was lacklustre. If you wanted to make about Rudd v Abbott, surely he's got to fire up a bit more than he did in that debate in Canberra. I know there was a lot made of the notes, but that was symptomatic of what was just a poor effort.
A lot made of the notes. I mean, anyone who knows... You know, in terms of the way that Kevin operates, he collects his thoughts in that way, and it.
But they're against the rules.
Well, he didn't, and as he's already explained, Josh, he wasn't made aware of that, and I'm sure that he'll be able to go head to head with Tony Abbott any day when we're talking policy and not three-word slogans.
Okay, Josh Frydenberg, what about the paid parental leave policy? We know that it's not very popular internally. Within the Liberal Party. In fact, I mean, I should say, not just the Liberals, but the Nationals, many of them don't like it. We're hearing from business concerns that the cost is going to blow out. This really is causing enormous headaches for the coalition, and now the ongoing confusion about where the money's coming from. The Greens have had their 1.5% levy on big business costed. It'll fund less than half the proposed scheme by Tony Abbott.
Well, Kieran, this is a very important policy. It's going to boost productivity and it's going to boost female workforce participation, which is going to produce a massive dividend for the Australian economy, both in the near term and in the long term. So let's go through it. A woman earning an average wage of $65,000 a year will be $21,300 better off under our scheme. That's $21,300 better off. We will include superannuation. We will lift the burden off small business because it will be conducted through the Family Assistance Office.
It's inequitable, though? It's inequitable because those on 150,000, those on 300,000 will get twice that amount.
That's a very small percentage of the women who will be eligible under the scheme. You see, the government has a Mickey Mouse scheme, Kieran. They only have 18. They have only 18 weeks. Right? They only have 18 weeks. The World Health Organisation says that a woman needs half a year to bond with their child. So we'll put it at 26 weeks. Only 2 countries in the more than 30 OECD countries has a paid parental leave scheme which is at a minimum wage, not a replacement wage. So Australia is going to join the vast majority of those countries by having a paid parental leave scheme at the replacement wage.
Let's go to Ed on this.
Countries, why isn't it good for Australia, Ed?
Well, Ed, you can respond to that, but also politically, Ed, there have got to be many younger voters out there about to have their first or second child and thinking, that does sound attractive.
Well, and yeah, also being spearheaded in part by a bloke who goes at one part of the globe saying that the age of entitlement's over and that we shouldn't be handing over big loads of cash like this, and then comes here and backs in the form of Joe Hockey, and then comes and backs this plan. But let's take this into context, Kieran. You know, what we've had is a system in place where people on contracts or on higher incomes could negotiate parental leave as part of their arrangements. We've had enterprise agreements that also allow for it, but there are also people that miss out. And why I take offence at Josh's claim about Mickey Mouse paid parental leave scheme is our scheme has helped those people who haven't been able to negotiate them or have fallen outside an EBA. And when you look at it, nearly 40% or 40% plus of the people that get the benefit of what we're doing are on incomes of about 40,000. So this has meant a big deal. Now, you know, when I door knock in my electorate, Kieran, I have people, pensioners, say, why is it that under Tony Abbott's scheme, and I've had this from a bloke in Oakhurst, say, why is it that Tony Abbott's going to hand over $75,000 of government money, $75,000 to someone, which is 3 times what this pensioner gets in his pension?
But that's not government money. It's going to be paid by big business in large part.
Exactly. Well, thank you, because then that brings me to the next point. We've been upfront about the fact that our revenues are soft because of the fact that companies aren't earning money because the world economy is softer than what it should be. So we haven't been able to get the company tax in because the revenue's being lower. So what's the Liberal proposal in this climate where revenues are down? To slug those businesses even more, make their operating conditions even worse. And what does that do in terms of jobs within those companies and also the revenues within those companies and the costs that get passed on to us as consumers?
Josh, I want to further to what Ed says there, just on that point that I made initially about the Greens. Now, they costed their 1.5% levy on big business because they effectively have got a very similar policy to Tony Abbott when it comes to paid parental leave. So they had that 1.5% levy costed. It's come back from the Parliamentary Budget Office, and it's less than half the cost of what this scheme is going to be for an Abbott-led government if you win on September 7. So there's a big gap you've got to fill there.
Well, our policy has been fully costed by the Parliamentary Budget Office. It's been fully funded. It will be $6.1 billion over the forward estimates, and we'll be closing down the government scheme and there'll be savings from there. Currently under Labor's scheme, federal public servants can double dip, so we'll stop that. They can get what they're entitled to under the public service scheme as well as under the federal government scheme, and we'll stop that. You know, the point here is we've got a temporary levy on big business, 1 in 200 companies. It's 1.5%. Now, we've also got a company tax cut of 1.5%, so it's going to net out for those big companies. As last time I looked, the Labor Party has no company tax cut. And, you know, we know from Ken Henry, who led a major review of the tax system, that company tax cuts will actually lead to better wages overall for workers. We've been bold, we've got the vision, and we've put that out there. Labor's not.
Well, you've got the vision, but not the detail just yet. Why not put all the costings out there? Isn't it undermining your case of being the better economic managers, leaving it to the 11th hour?
We'll be putting out our costings in good time, but let's not forget that the Labor Party put it out at 5 p.m. on the Friday night before the last election.
No,
that's what they did,
wrong.
and that's what they did, and we will be putting it out well before Labor did last time. I can say
Okay,
that.
let's go to Ed. Ed.
Wrong. It was our policies as they were announced were costed, and those figures were released. What
Even
we're not
Chris
doing
Bowen
is
admitted that.
what we're not doing is what you guys are saying, which is you release everything 3 days before the election. That is just contemptible,
Okay,
and does not give people an idea of what they're going to be up for if you guys get in the government.
I want to move on to one final issue. We've only got 3 minutes left. Ed, to you on this. It's the asylum seeker matter. We've seen another tragedy off Christmas Island. It just hasn't stopped the flow. There was a slowing, but the PNG deal, well, the people smugglers are very much taking it on, aren't they?
Well, and I mean, that's been something that we've said consistently that since the time we've announced the resettlement agreement with Papua New Guinea, Kieran, that they would try to test our resolve. We have seen, and obviously Minister Burke has outlined the fact that you could see the drop in the numbers that are coming. We also expected that there would be potentially legal challenges, but we're very confident that we'll be able to withstand those legal challenges. For us, the prime motivation is to stop people making this journey over the seas and getting here, and saying to people that if you arrive this way, you are not going to be coming to Australia.
Josh Frydenberg, whoever's in office, it's going to be very, very tough to stop this trade.
Well, this is a problem of the government's own making. We had a system in work. Let's
Yeah, we
put some
know that.
facts
We
on
know
the
that.
Let's put some
We've
facts on the
discussed
table.
this many
Fact
times,
number one.
though.
But
That is a
Kieran,
fact.
let me say.
But we're
yeah,
looking
fact
at the
number
reality
one.
now.
Sure,
What about the
and
coalition?
reality,
It's going to be just as tough for you.
It's going to be tough, but we've done it before, we'll do it again. Fact number one, since the government announced their PNG proposal, around 3,000 people have come in an unauthorised manner by boat. Manus only has a capacity for a few hundred. Fact number two, Peter O'Neill, the Prime Minister of Papua New Guinea, has directly contradicted Kevin Rudd by saying all the people deemed to be refugees won't be settled in Papua New Guinea. Indeed, they could be resettled in Australia. And fact number three, there's an international forum going on at the moment where Iran, which is the greatest source of people coming by boat to Australia, is not even represented. Those three facts are very, very damning of the government's handling of this important issue. The Australian people want it to be done better, and we will do it just as we did it before, and we'll stop the boats.
All right, gentlemen, we're out of time. Josh Frydenberg, Ed Husick, gents, appreciate your time this morning. Thanks so much for that. And we'll have more from the Broncos Club here in Brisbane after this break. I spoke to Peter Dutton, the Shadow Health Minister, a bit earlier this morning. We'll have that for you, as well as more previews of tonight's very important People's Forum between Kevin Rudd and Tony Abbott.